Rock lobsters in space! And this is Roche Fusion. It's a shoot 'em up that sort of looks like all the enemies are lobsters. They're in shells or something and they're attacking you in space. So, yeah. Uh, it feels like a throwback to shooters when you collected the high score and you didn't really care about beating the level. I think it's procedurally generated, and really you only last a few waves because this game is that hard. Um, but yeah, so the main appeal of this game is the gloating rates of getting a higher score than your buddy or other people. Not so much completion of the game. It's got a fairly unique look to it. The neon enemies and shots with a pinball sort of aesthetic is how I describe it. The game doesn't look particularly fancy. It just feels like a long lost like Windows shooter that maybe you installed a long time ago or you bought a long time ago and you never played, and then you just suddenly found it, picked it up and started playing it, because it really feels like something from 10 to 20 years ago. But it doesn't look like so dated that like it feels like a game that say your dad was playing like Pong or something decades ago. It's quite challenging, and it's definitely not for people that are just starting out with shooters. I found it pretty challenging. I gave it a few shots, but like even then the waves started to get pretty hard within like 3 minutes. So yeah, the enemies come in waves. I don't think there's bosses. I think one person said that they saw a boss once out of like 100 stages, so I guess there might be a boss in this game, but other than that it's just you're fighting waves of enemies following certain patterns. The con of this game is it's really not doing anything particularly unique. Like, it's got a kind of unique style to it, but it doesn't really stand out where I would say it's like it's a unique style to it. It kind of reminds me of like the pinball designs, like that's I don't know if that's the look that they're looking for, but sort of like the pinball era of like arcade machines. The enemies, oddly enough, seem to be way overpowered, and like your character themselves seem way underpowered, even with the power-ups and everything. They take a crazy amount of hits, like gluttonous amount of blaster shots to take them down, and I found a lot of times I would devastate maybe like half the wave or 3/4 of the wave, but I get shot down because, just movement, just trying to dodge some of these overpowered enemies. And yeah, it's just the game feels unbalanced, and it just feels frustrating because you're pretty much guaranteed, I'm sure a lot of people are guaranteed to lose within 5 minutes, and you don't really feel encouraged to try again because it's not like the levels change and the enemies really change that much. Yeah, I don't recall there being a difficulty toggle, but it's just the game gets way too hard, way too fast, and it's only really meant for like the most hardcore of people that play shooters. And the fact that it's like not the prettiest shoot 'em up, not even remotely close, I would say it's like I have to be brutally honest, one of the ugliest shooters I've ever seen that's from like the last 10 years or so. But if you're desperate for a shooter, you'll probably want to pick this up, especially if you like them super hard. But yeah, it looks okay in average. Like, I'm not trying to be too pessimistic about it, but it doesn't catch your eye like a lot of the shooters. Again, going to Ikaruga and other famous ones. I'd say it's like a 5 out of 10 because I just really had no desire to play it. I played shooters, more recent shooters, and they have a certain look, and they just have that excitement to it, and this game's kind of dull for the music and everything. Yeah, so after 2 rounds it just really wasn't that exciting, and there's many shooters out there, a lot of heavy competition, and I feel like Roche Fusion unfortunately doesn't really feel essential or even needed in a genre which in the 80s they had so many shooters, a surplus of amazing ones. So anyways, unless you really need a shooter, Roche Fusion to me is like a 5 out of 10. It's kind of like a game that you got with your install Windows 3.1, and yeah, so keep on shooting your blasters and keep on gaming. Ciao.